Hey, Lynz, what are you listening to?
Brian, you share yours and I'll share mine.
With millions of podcasts, how do you choose?
We are here to help you find that next bingeable podcast.
Or that piece of content you'll follow regularly.
You're listening to Feed Drops.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Feed Drops. I am Brian, joined by...
I am Lynz, and I am happy to be back here at Sitch Radio in Irvine, California. It's nice to travel down from LA to join Brian to film this show.
Yeah, you know, and I missed you the last couple of weeks, you being venturing out of state on an awesome project that I cannot wait to listen to. So,
yeah, it was nice to go to Tulsa and dig into some archival stuff, and then also nice to come back. And I love that we have this opportunity to be virtual, that we can do this show. We don't have to be in the same room. It's more fun, I think, when we get to be, but we were able to do it from a distance.
And dude, this is episode 7 already.
Yeah, hard to believe.
Speaking of hard, if you missed last week's episode, Spy Hards, along with Got Skills, I had fun working on that with you.
That was a good one, and I'd love to hear from our listeners. You know, whether either of those, you know, when you listened in the Just the Drops feed, whether it enticed you to want to go subscribe or learn more. Yeah,
that's always good to know. Is what we're doing working?
Yeah. And speaking of which, to give some context for those who are new, this show is called Feed Drops, and Brian and I introduce 2 new shows every week. We each bring one in. Sometimes it's something we have sought out, and sometimes it's something that's been submitted that we've grabbed from the list. And we talk about these 2 shows. Later on in the week, we have a separate feed called Just the Drops. And that is the feed where you can hear entire episodes for all the shows we drop in. We do a little intro, little outro, provide a little context if necessary, and you get to hear it that way. So that is how you can engage with us. Listening to this is, you know, the Lynz and Brian banter show. But if you want to hear the episodes, you can sign up for the other feed, and then you can kind of see from the artwork when they come into your queue which one you want to listen to.
Yes, and if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast player, we thank you for subscribing. If you would like to get it ad-free and a week early, head on over to Substack. That link is in the show notes below. We would love to have you over there. There's going to be some additional content rolling out for the subscribers to that newsletter, which we're excited about.
Yeah, I mean, for starter, the ad-free bit is really nice, but also we're going to have video available and much, much more.
Yeah, and... another way you can engage with us is Instagram or Twitter. Those are the platforms we're most active on. There's that other one. What's that one? I got to tell you a quick Facebook. Do we have time for a quick Facebook?
We do.
So I was listening to a Gary Vee snippet. I like to consume Gary Vee when I'm eating lunch, basically because I can only tolerate him for about 10 minutes. I love you, Gary. He was advising a customer, are you on TikTok? He's like, that's a bunch of 13-year-old girls dancing. And Gary turns to him and says, Facebook used to be college girls. Now it's grandmas.
Yeah, it's true. So we're not as active on Facebook, as that's what you're saying there. But we're happy, you know, if you find us there, we will engage back.
We do check it. That we do. You know, I'm close to being a grandpa, so Facebook's my jam.
There you go. Well, and we're also both individually on TikTok, and we share about this show and we share about other things we're doing there. So if you're hanging out on TikTok, definitely say hi.
Yeah, and let's back up to introduction. Lynz Florid, the proprietor over at Growth Network Podcasts, and I run Sitch Radio in Irvine, California. So LA, Irvine, you know, we've got 2 counties covered here in SoCal.
Yeah.
You can check those links out too. They are in the show notes if you want to see what other projects we're working on.
Yeah, we both have our fingers in a lot of different projects. So definitely check that out. And I think now it's time to talk about which podcasts we pick for this episode. And Brian, you're up first.
Yes, I kind of picked a heavy topic. The title of the episode is The Cooling Solutions Challenge, DHS's Fight Against Climate Change. This is brought to us by a show called Prepare, Respond, Recover, which is a show for the Natural Disaster and Emergency Management Expo. That's a mouthful. We love working with NDEM. They put out a good product. This is one of those shows where personally working on it, I felt really stupid, and I'm really happy there's smart people on this planet that can think to the level that some of these people are thinking about. And this is one of those episodes where it's like, wow, man, who would have thought that this is going on the governmental level? You don't hear about it on the news. Lynz?
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about that. And I picked something and a whole, far out in left field. I picked a show called Yesterday's Concert, and you guys are in for a treat with this one because it is an immersive listening experience, and we get to hear the host talk about going to see Paul McCartney, and it's pretty epic. So I'm really excited. Stick around for that one. We'll play a couple clips, and you'll definitely want to check it out.
And we're going to dive into that show right after this quick break. All right. Thanks for listening to our sponsors. They make it easier to do what we do. If you can utilize their products and or services, please hit them up and let them know you heard about them on Feed Drops. So the Cooling Solutions Challenge. Now I'm going to read a little bit here. This is part of DHS's effort to implement a proactive approach to climate change resilience. DHS is looking for novel ways to protect those at risk of heat-related illness or death, including first responders, households, or group quarters without access to conventional cooling systems. And it goes on to even outdoor cooling solutions for the unhoused populations that are growing in most major metropolitan areas. So this is some cool stuff. They're putting this challenge out there and letting companies come to them with ideas to combat these issues, and they get cash prizes to carry that pitch forward. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, I'm excited to hear about a bit more about this and sort of see, dig into the implications of how it affects a regular everyday folks like you and me.
Well, let's rock clip one. Now, clip one starts with the host asking a question.
We have grand ideas in academia. I know I'm part of it, and I have to remind myself that what I do has to have a practical application, or our research is for naught.
Yeah, so if you extend that down and you think of it in terms of more at the community and infrastructure resilience perspective, then it starts with, how would you define that under that context? And we kind of have looked at engaging with a lot of those efforts and said a resilient community anticipates, prepare for, withstands, and evolves in the wake of disruption.
Now, I hear a lot about resiliency working on this show and a couple of the others that we do here at Sitch. And it's cool to think about how, even at the city level, resiliency is, a big topic because, let's face it, if the power goes out, we're all bummed. And the first thing we check is how much battery do we have left on our phone? Now, if the power went out to knock cell towers out, then we start losing our minds, and there are people at all levels of government that are thinking about resiliency. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that your average person may not always think about is how many people are thinking about the worst possible scenarios and how to prevent them. And, there may be the people in the government that are doing that might be doing it in different silos where they don't share that with each other. But it does give me comfort that someone is thinking about that on my behalf, right? That really, we need more of that probably.
Definitely. Now, I don't know about you, Lynz, but having had the privilege of responding to the Gulf Coast after Hurricane Katrina, and I was there during Rita, I came back with a new mindset of I need plans and preparations at my house because, the government used to tout 3 days of food and water. That's up to 10 now. And with what I've seen and experienced running a rescue ambulance, 30 days is probably a good starting point. So I feel I have a level of preparedness at home. Power goes out, no big deal. We're going to light candles. We're going to, we can easily transition our cooking outside off propane. There's things we can do, but listening to this episode makes me rethink some of these plans and makes me look at how resilient is my household.
Yeah. And I think, not everyone is down for that questioning, but I think the more people that can think about it as often as possible, the better. I've lived in California for most of my life, and the possibility of an earthquake has always been there. But as I grow older, I realize that, having iodine tablets to potentially clean up some dirty water so I can drink it, is a little thing I can do, for example, in an earthquake kit,
Yeah.
And so a show like this, very necessary, and I'm glad they're having those discussions.
Yeah. So let's roll on into clip number 2.
Extreme heat conditions could be not just because of climate change in itself, but it also could be a symptom of disruptions that are caused by other disasters. For example, in Hurricane Ida, we had a failure of power. At the same time that we had a failure of power, we had a series of days where the temperatures were extremely hot. Well, that meant that those that traditionally had access to air conditioning and cooling no longer had access. So we've kind of step back and said, where can we address compound events and where can we stimulate innovation? And in the Cooling Solution Prize Challenge that we recently announced on September 23rd with Secretary Mayorkas, we're looking to inject innovation by soliciting ideas for new solutions that address 4 key use cases. The first is, can we inject innovation that provides new cooling solutions to first responders and critical lifeline operators that work outdoors or have outdoor encounters? And they need to apply those solutions to cope with those extreme conditions. Second is, where can we inject new cooling solutions to help individuals without requiring them to retrofit their house or their living quarters so that they can have reliable or emergency access to cooling? The third is, how can we provide a similar solution to group quarters to support things like sheltering, emergency sheltering, whether they're temporary shelters or they're permanent shelters, when we have disruptions like, for example, Hurricane Ida, or we have extreme heat events. And then the fourth unique use case we identified with our partner, the FEMA, and of course the Secretary of Homeland Security's office, was to look at where could we maybe solicit new solutions that could be used outdoors that could be applied to assist with the homeless and displaced populations, basically addressing some inequity issues and improving access to those types of solutions for all.
I'm so glad I have the career path that I have, and I don't have to think about these types of things. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the public safety net and the things that we do to take care of the folks that don't have as much as we do, and I'm glad they're taking that into account. And like you, the whole thing is it's not the problem-solving area that is my specialty, and so I'm glad other people care about it and are diving into it.
Yeah, and it's cool that they're looking at eco-friendly, energy-efficient solutions to these problems, not just a solution.
Right.
So,
yeah.
There's
a lot of things to manage, and they're trying to hit all the points, and that's probably impossible, but they're trying anyway.
Yeah. So that was Prepare, Respond, Recover by the Natural Disaster and Emergency Management Expo. If you're in that space, preparedness, first responder, just into, household preparedness or neighborhood preparedness, you might want to check this show out. It's been fun to work on. We've had some really cool and interesting. You know, I'm going to go off script a little bit. We had the guy, there's this big warehouse somewhere in the US where they build houses inside, and inside of this warehouse, they can make a hurricane. They can lob freaking hail at roofs. And what they do is they test building materials and building styles. How many nails are too many nails? How many nails are not enough nail? I mean, it's incredible what they can replicate inside this warehouse. That guy was on this show talking about it's his job to go figure out how to destroy something. What a cool job.
Wow.
He's
and I think anyone who is like who is really committed to their emergency preparedness list, you know, if they check on their earthquake kit every once in a while, I'm thinking of my girlfriend here. This is the kind of show for you. You're thinking about that stuff ahead of time and you want to be ahead of the ball. This show will flag things you hadn't thought of.
Most definitely. So, Lynz, let's talk about yesterday's concert.
Well, I think we should talk about that, but let's talk about it right after this break. All right, and here we are talking about yesterday's concert. This was a submission that came in. I believe they probably found us through our tweeting, but they entered the submission, which anyone can do through our feeddrops.com website. Just click on submit your show, and you too can submit. But I picked yesterday's concert because I am a concert fanatic. I love going to concerts, and the idea of a show being about that was really exciting.
So on that note, Lynz, what was the very first concert you ever went to?
Are we talking on my own, or like something I got dragged to with my family?
With your family, let's say on your own.
Okay. I have to say it was a radio station concert, one of those summer festival things. And I think No Doubt was playing. This was 96, perhaps, maybe 97, 96. Yeah, 96. And it was all the modern rock that you would expect in the summer of 96. It was great. It was a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah.
I vaguely recall
what I remember
great.
of it.
Yes. What about you? What was your first concert?
You know, I want to say it was 87, 88. It was summer, and it was the Cure, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me album.
Ooh.
And I mean, at the time, I mean, I lost my mind. It was like such a really cool experience. You know, my music tastes have changed over time, but every time that album, a song from that album plays, it just takes me back to high school days and times at that concert. And, you know, it was a good time.
Yeah. Marks it. There's something about going to a concert that marks it in time for you, you know? And so, I'm going to lead into this first clip here, that a part of that is the anticipation of getting the tickets, which is the first part of the enjoyment of the concert.
But alas, the refresh of all refreshes happened. After nearly a quarter-hour barbaric battle, I emerged from the pits victorious. I had slain the giant. 3 seats in the lower bowl of AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas were on their way to my mailbox. I'm going to see Paul McCartney. I'm going to see a Beatle in concert, not just the frontman of any band. This wasn't like seeing Deep Purple's third guitarist solo project. This was the Beatles, the holiest of holy rock bands, the Mount Rushmore of artists, the band that jump-started the musical endeavors of practically every future rock star. This is a band that everyone can point to as the band. And this wasn't just any of the Beatles. This was one half of the mammoth songwriting duo Lennon and McCartney. The Pinman, Penny Lane, Let It Be, Hey Jude, Eleanor Rigby, Yesterday, Blackbird, and to stop there feels criminal. The only surviving Beatle who could still sell out a venue of any size. Sir Paul McCartney was the torchbearer for a new generation of Beatles fans, and I was going to be in attendance.
You know, what's really palpable is how much Paul McCartney means to him, and how much this show you know, that the excitement is not faked. You know, it's visceral. You can feel it.
And you know, it's funny because this dates me. when we wanted concert tickets back in my day, at, for example, the Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me tour, we actually had to go to Tower Records and stand in line to get in when they opened the day they went on sale.
Did you ever stay overnight? Were you ever that committed?
I was never that hardcore. No.
I did one time in the 90s. There was an acoustic tour that Dave Matthews was on. It was really tiny venues, and my friends and I were obsessed. And we stayed the night in the Stanford Shopping Center. And, it's not, I don't know if hardcore is the word, but it's something. Obsessed.
That clip started off with the refresh of all refreshes, I think it was. And it brought me to the scene of the Big Bang Theory when they were trying to buy Comic-Con tickets. You had all of them in different chairs on different computers. Refresh. But, once you do refresh, I've done that for mud runs in the past. And once you do get on that screen where you can buy, you're just so excited. It's like you made the top of the hill and everything's downhill from there.
Right. Yeah. The show has a lot to live up to after that. The drama of just getting the tickets.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. Well, I think we're ready for the second clip.
With each strum of the tiny ukulele, my chest grew tighter. My face was flush and my cheeks got puffy. It was so beautiful. To be nearly 70, Paul's voice was nailing the quiet authority of the song. I'd heard this song countless times. As a guitar-obsessed teenager, I pored over George Harrison's work. He was my favorite Beatle. In that moment, I remembered every time I ever heard this song, what it was like to hear Elvis cover it. What it was like to be in love and hear it. Then my vision got blurry, my nose began to drop. Before I even had a chance to put on a brave face, the song had completely swept over me. I tried to pull in a deep breath to compose myself, but it was too little too late. Warm droplets steamed down my face while I shifted in my seat to hide my embarrassment. Openly weeping without the slightest understanding of why, I cried until the very last note of the song. Like an erectile dysfunction commercial. I swear this had never happened before.
What a mix, I love the going real deep on the emotional, really sharing what it was like, and then bringing the hammer of the humor in there with the like the erectile dysfunction. It's never happened to me, but I, especially as I get older, I definitely get sentimental quicker, and but concerts can take me there so fast. It just pulls on emotional heartstrings. It's my favorite way to feel things.
And music has that ability to, a song will come on and it takes you back to a time of your life and the feelings of joy that you were experiencing, or maybe dread that you were experiencing. It's all right there. Mm-hmm. And it's this remembrance that I think is so powerful about music.
Well, and they say, I don't remember where I've seen it, but they, the studies where they show that people who have Alzheimer's and other degenerative diseases like that if you play them music from their youth, they perk right up. Wow. And they're able to pull memories that maybe they didn't think they had, because there's something connected to those sounds. And so, there's something in the way music hits you.
That there is, my parents were both farmers growing up, Northeast. And, I grew up on country. That's what they listened to. When my sisters became of age and they started introducing pop or bringing pop and rock into the house, I remember my mother, she was one of those that's the devil's music. You're not listening to that in my home. And which only made me want to listen to it more. So, screw the record player. I need a cassette player because I can hide it easier,
Nice.
The devil's music.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Well, so this concert, while they can't necessarily use the music from the concert that they're in for licensing reasons, this podcast does such a great job of using music layered in with the voices to kind of take you on some kind of journey. Even though it can't bring you to a full live experience, it can at least take you on a journey of its own through the memory banks.
You know, and I want to commend him. He is what I think is an excellent writer. His storytelling's remarkable throughout his show. Now, this is the only episode I've listened to, but the amount of effort and sweat equity he's put into producing this piece of content, I want to go back and listen to more. I want to see if he's talking about a band I know and love, and hear his experiences with them. So it'll be a fun journey for me to see what else he's put out.
Yeah. Well, and to look back on, I mean, it looks like there's a couple of seasons where, I mean, that much effort put into this episode across all those episodes. That is an impressive effort. And it's, so like as a producer, it makes me want to dig in more, because I'm impressed. So,
you know, Lynz, have you ever gone to a concert that was weird?
Oh yeah.
Let me, okay. Share a story.
Well, you go where you were going to go,
Okay.
and I'll conjure the memory.
So my buddy, who we're still friends to this day, he's actually my former brother-in-law. His sister and I divorced a long time ago. We still hang out and do things from time to this day. And he called me up one day, dude, I got tickets to Green Day at Dominguez. Let's go. I'm like, all right, let's go. So we get there, we park, we come in, we grab a beer, and there were lawn tickets. Their venue's got a lawn area, so we just sit back and kick back and do what we do. And we start looking around, dude, and it was a bunch of kids, dude. We were like the dirty old men at this Green Day concert, and it was like, maybe we should have bought seats because the kids are all back here in the cheap seats. But we were so uncomfortable that we just left, dude. We maybe heard a song and a half, and we're like, dude, we got to go. This is just freaking me out. So we left.
I have an inverse story of going to see The Who. I think this was probably 2003. Yeah, it was The Who. And, you know, me and my fiance at the time, you know, a couple of friends, but we're all in our early 20s. We're the young ones, you know, and we're supposed to be the partiers, but we're like, you know, I might need to get to bed early. Let's see how long we can hang out, you know? And these people show up, and I never knew how much stuff you could store inside of a cowboy boot. You know, there's your foot and your leg, but there's all this room around your leg for flasks and, you know, whatever. And I just saw these people come into the venue, and they just like, you know, pulling out hard drugs, pulling out liquor, pulling out this stuff after going through security. This is after 9/11. This isn't, you know, like security was still pretty decent.
Yeah.
But they came in. So we sort of watched the old folks that run circles around us with their party.
That is funny. Well, that's it for today's episode. Listen, if you enjoy what we're doing, please share it with those in your circle that may be interested in podcasts and or want to, you know, figure out what's out there. Lynz and I bring 2 shows a week to your attention. And, you know, they're shows that, again, have been submitted, or they are shows from our camps, whether it be Sitch Radio or Growth Network podcasts. Got it right that time.
Nailed it.
And there's shows that not necessarily we're 100% hunky-dory about, but because it's not something I would normally listen to, doesn't mean it's not a good show. It just might not be right for me, but it's still great content that we're going to share it with you because, you know, if we all drank from the same cup of tea, would be boring. And did I say the wrong cup? If we all drank from the same cup of tea is what I meant to say, life would be boring. So we're going to bring shows to you that we feel are good content. Again, might not ring our bells, but we're hoping they ring yours.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit more like going to a, you know, like swinging by an art show. You know, you're not necessarily going to take those things home with you, but it's nice to be inspired by what somebody did and spent their time on, and it might make you want to go spend some time on something of your own. And so that's, you know, the approach we're taking. And we really appreciate your submissions. For those of you who are podcasters, share your shows, keep doing that. We're getting a lot of them, and we love all of them. We're only going to do 2 a week. So Appreciate your patience as we dive in. But like you saw this week, the concert one really spoke to me, and it was fun to bring it here and talk about it and our own experiences.
And I had no clue what he picked until today, which was kind of cool because now I'm like jonesing to listen to more of this guy's content.
Yeah. So we're doing, we're doing another one of these next week with more shows. In the meantime, don't forget to check out Just the Drops. That's where you can hear entire episodes of these shows as they are released, so that you can hear us talk about them. And then on the companion feed, you can get the full episodes when they come out.
That you can. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and visit us anytime at feeddrops.com.